It looks like Helldivers 2 is finally starting to hit the point of diminishing returns. It looks like perhaps this was precipitated a little bit by the Sony debacle, by trying to force the PSN accounts. But let's also be honest about this stuff. You can't maintain over 100,000 concurrent players forever. There's eventually going to hit a point in time where everybody's played the maps, everybody's experienced the gameplay loops, new things have come out, and you know what? Hey, maybe when you guys do a big update, of course, we'll be able to see if you recapture your original glory days. But let's not paint this as something that has just been a complete and total fall from grace. Like Helldivers 2 CEO demotes himself as player numbers fall by 20,000. But when you take a look, it's like this actually seems like a fairly good curve where, okay, yeah, you have your bumps on the weekend, which, yeah, of course, that's the way the gaming goes, especially online gamings. And yeah, it's just a good slope that's down there. And yeah, the past 2 hours, 60,000 people, 65,000 people in the middle of the week. That's when I'm recording this. That's when they're playing. Okay, it's nowhere near the 458,000 all-time peak, but let's not sneeze at that. Okay, there are some newer, much more expensive games that are out there that aren't even coming close to hitting those numbers. And oh yeah, we're going to take a look at a few of them, but first and foremost, okay, Helldivers 2 took the gaming world by storm when it launched in February, becoming one of the most played games on PC. Player numbers for the live service shooter have recently started dropping at an alarming pace. It's not really, especially when you look at the numbers, like that's kind of a nice, slow drop. It's to be expected. Nobody's on top forever. Nobody's Rocky Marciano. They ride out undefeated. It's just, that's the way it is, man. Helldivers 2 now has 20,000 fewer players on PC this week than the week before, according to SteamDB, just as Arrowhead Studio CEO and Helldivers 2 creative director Johan Pilstead has announced that he will demote himself to the chief creative officer. Okay, I don't necessarily know what that means specifically for the hierarchy of Arrowhead Games, but if he's going to take on a more creative role, okay, is that a boon for the company? Who knows, right? The move was made so that Pilstead can work more closely with the game's developers, which fans have taken as a positive decision. Well, there you go. There you go. It's almost like they have a long-term plan. It's almost like they know what they're doing over there at Arrowhead Games. It's almost like they understand the long-term viability of their franchise is making the right decisions for the gamers. And yes, the fact that they ended up getting Sony to reverse course on those stupid PSN accounts and them generally being on the side of their players has shown that there is something to be learned from Helldivers, something to be learned from Arrowhead Studios. Now, if they could just, get to the bottom of their toxic community manager side of things and get back in the lab to make this game as good as possible, like, okay, maybe we can go ahead and do something about that. In a tweet, Pilstead said, I have decided to hire Shams Gorjani as the new CEO of Arrowhead Game Studios. We go way back, and I wouldn't trust the business in any other hands than his. And he comes with an impressive resume and love for games. Well, there you go. I'm taking the role of Chief Creative Officer, which means I will spend more time with the community and 100% of my focus on the games and community, which is, yeah, man, good stuff, good move. And it sounds like that's something that everybody wants, that puts the game ahead of the people behind it. Big shock on that one, especially when it comes to such a popular game, and especially in 2024. But I want you to compare and contrast that with another highly touted release that's kind of a little bit struggling. I guess the first one would it have been considered, even though it was kind of a first-party Microsoft title, would it be more of a double A release? Because that's kind of what you'd also characterize Hellblade 2, or I'm sorry, Helldivers. We're dealing with so many hells here. Just the entire games industry is in hell right now. It's so terrible to think about. But no, with Helldivers 2, they've got, Sony money behind them, but they're still kind of considered double A. And then you got, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice from a few years ago at this point in time. It was a sleeper hit. I don't necessarily know how well the original sold, but I know it had incredibly good word of mouth. So when Hellblade 2 was announced, which I seem to recall it was announced alongside the Xbox Series X and S back in, 2019, 2020, where it's like, holy Christ, it took you an additional 4 years to come up with this game. Like, what the hell are we actually doing? But also, at the same time, it's like, yeah, it finally dropped. with no fanfare at all whatsoever. Like, we understand that Microsoft is going through some stuff right now, and if they have something that could go ahead and distract from any of the studios that they're closing down by saying, hey guys, we actually still have games, you would think one of their biggest marketing games, okay, one of the big reasons that people should still have faith that Microsoft still has the Xbox brand to create games, they would try to put that front and center, but they really didn't with this one, because it just dropped like the 21st of May, like it dropped, okay? But who knew? Who even noticed? Oh, and then now it's starting to have bad downstream effects. Despite strong reviews from who exactly? Because we got Grums, once again, shout out to Grums. Hellblade 2 early reviews are in, 6 hours of gameplay. Oh, that's not great. First 40 minutes is walking. That's not good at all, but I guess if you're setting up your story, 40 minutes is a lot. That's a lot. Chapter 3 is walking and torchlighting. Oh, okay, great. So that's going to be what? So 40 minutes is probably going to be the lion's share of your first chapter. And then, okay, cool. Then you get gameplay for the second. And then chapter 3, you got to slow it down, way down. Too much focus on story. Well, the first one was fairly, at least from what I heard, very focused on storytelling. So yeah, if it's a good story, if it's well written, that's one thing, okay? Not enough interactivity, throw away puzzles that feel like padding. Yeah, see, that's the problem. Graphics over substance. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but the last time that we seen a big AAA release, or at least a very highly touted first-party title, end up kind of falling into that situation where you ended up putting certain things over gameplay. That was The Order 1886. And if you don't know that reference, there's a little bit of homework for you, and just go and see how well that ended up working out for Sony. First one was much better, and that's actually what I'm hearing from the reviews that are out there, and I seen a little bit of gameplay of this, and it bored me to tears. Now, I don't understand. I don't know any of these characters. I didn't play the first game. I have no real desire to play the first game, but if it's conversations between characters that are intriguing, that do end up grabbing you, unlike a bunch of, hands on her head because it's supposed to be about my mental illness and all that crap, there's a reason that this game didn't interest me at all, because the stuff is just so played out, and especially in this space. But even if I don't know those characters and I drop into a long, drawn-out conversation like I did, I should be able to pick up reasons as to why people find those characters interesting, but I was just praying to God that something would happen. Because yeah, here's the thing. If you have 6 hours and you're playing, and you have a video game, okay, and you're focusing a lot on story, if the first 40 minutes is walking, if a big part of the first third of your story is walking and pressing A, you kind of got a problem when it comes to gaming. Like, I'll reference it again because everybody knows I'm going to. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, there's a lot of story in that game. Guess what? There's a lot of game in that game. Like, even with the flashback that the game starts on, okay, if you know Final Fantasy VII, you know the flashback that I'm talking about. Yeah, there's a lot of storytelling at play right there, and yeah, the first few minutes is all set up in the back of the truck, but immediately you get some gameplay, and then right after that, you get to walk around Nibelheim, and then after that, you get to make your way to the first reactor, and you get to play the game. It's crazy. It's not the full game, because it's a flashback, but then when chapter 2 starts, which just is fresh in mind because I'm just officially starting the hard mode playthrough, you get exposed to all of the mechanics, some of the mini games that are out there, the way that the side quest system works, and that's all within the first half an hour, 20 minutes, and then you get brought into the first big open expansive world where you can go ahead and do whatever you like. Literally, when the first time that I played this, back in March, crazy to think about, I ran around for the first 10 hours, the entirety of the first open landscape, without realizing that, yeah, I could have done all of that stuff and more if I had a chocobo, but the game was like, yeah, no, you can progress the main quest, or you could just go do whatever you like. I understand that those are two completely and totally different games, but that, Rebirth, is 120 hours on your first playthrough. Hellblade 2 is 6. There's nothing wrong with a linear story. Some of my favorite games are very linear in nature. It's just, you gotta strike that balance, because at the end of the day, it's a video game still. While I might prioritize characters and story when it comes to my personal favorite games, still got to have gameplay in there. Still got to have compelling mechanics. And that's apparently a Ninja Theory. Oh, I'm sorry. According to Grums, I feel like Ninja Theory is in Microsoft's targeting system if the game doesn't meet some sales minimums. But yeah, like I said, the game wasn't at all marketed. Like, I didn't see anything for this. Now, I could be, of course, in a bubble. Maybe it was just blasted everywhere that I wasn't looking. That could totally be the case. But apparently, when you look at this, okay, you take a look at the Steam users, 1,400 people playing right now, a peak since its release of 3,900 people. That's really not good. But I understand, yeah, it's on Game Pass. But here's the other thing, man. That's just indicative of the people who are willing to buy the game. Those are the most enthusiastic people for the brand instead of the people that, pay, $20 a month for Game Pass that are just going to get it on there, okay? The people that'll just simply play it once, treat it like disposable content. That's why I've got big problems with Game Pass, man. I think that it's kind of ruining the industry. And I think Ninja Theory, a very, very established and illustrious studio in and of itself, realizes that, yeah, we made a game, and don't be surprised if it's going to be our last one. So, a message from studio head Dom Matthews ahead of our launch tomorrow. Hi everyone, as we sit here on the eve of the release of Senua Saga's Hellblade II, I wanted to thank you, our fans, on behalf of everyone here at Ninja Theory. We see you and we hear you when you give us such love and support. When you tell us how much Senua means to you, when you tell us how much you are looking forward to this game, and how much faith you have in us to continue Senua's story. In a way, that does justice to the connection so many of you have to her and to Hellblade. From the very beginning of Senua Saga, Hellblade II have had you in mind, and I truly hope that when you play the second chapter in Senua's story, you will find that familiar connection once again, and that also so many people will find their way to Senua and her world too. Making video games is difficult, much like Senua. We are a team that is guided by a conviction to achieve our quest to make a game that sinks you deep into Senua's world, and to make and to take you on a journey that leaves you thinking and feeling. I believe I have achieved our quest, and I hope you'll agree. I'm very proud of the game, very proud of our team, and very proud of you, our fans, who have supported us on this magical journey. Thank you, Dom Matthews, studio head. You do, in fact, love to see it, man. Like, that's a good statement. Here's our game, man. Here's our game. We're proud of it. We see you as fans. We're glad that you guys have supported us throughout this entire story. We are really looking forward to you guys getting this in your hands. But when you take a look at Xbox and the way that it's marketing it, yeah, it really kind of reads like the follow-up is going to be, we really love you fans, we really love your support, but it's now the close of Ninja Theory. It's like we've seen right there. That's not exactly a good sign. Definitely not a good sign. 4,000? Maybe it'll pick up for the weekend. Maybe. Okay, maybe good word of mouth. Maybe people still trust in some review sites who think, hey guys, it's going to end up being great. Maybe it's totally worth the $70 price tag on Steam. Yo, I'm good. But given the fact that we're a couple of days after release and the game only has 1,200 reviews, not exactly not a good sign, especially if it's only 6 hours long. I don't know, man. I'd love to be wrong, especially because 2024 desperately needs some games, but they also desperately don't need the slop that has led to the downfall of the industry. And if this is the case of a studio being forced to make a game that is completely and totally against their ultimate vision, well, shit sucks, I guess. Just gonna end up being another casualty as the industry burns down, and hopefully in a few years' time we end up getting something better from the aftermath. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.